All right, Paula, thanks so much for being on the Friends with Wheels podcast. I appreciate it. First off is tell the audience a little bit about you, how you started, and we can go from there.
Yeah, sure. My name is Paula Yost, and I am a lawyer. I was a lawyer first, but then I realized that the law only helps but so far. And so I went to back to grad school and became a licensed clinical mental health therapist. And so now I'm a licensed clinical mental health therapist and an attorney. And I have a special needs child of my own. And so I've had to do some school system advocacy and things like that in the past.
hmm what do you do in those two camps? Let's first start off with the lawyer part of it first.
Okay. So mostly I am an estates attorney. So I take care of wills, trusts, and probate for deceased people. And I also file trademarks. And then in counseling, I pretty much take care of whatever walks through the door. I don't usually do much substance abuse, but I do the gamut of anxiety, depression, all other forms of mental health issues I usually take care of.
Because I was going to ask, like in the mental health aspect, I've had a couple mental health people on, and they've told me, what they specialize in. But could you break that down even more?
Yeah, sure. So I consider myself to be an existential therapist, which basically means that I focus on the fact that everyone needs to have a purpose. Everyone needs to have something that lights them up and gives them fire and gives them something that they want to do every day. And if you feel like you don't have a life purpose, or if you feel like it's not going in the direction you want it to go in, then you tend to get stuck. And so I like helping people get unstuck.
And then how do you do that? What sorts of processes or modalities do you use?
Well, that's usually highly specialized for each individual person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it can be a lot of things. It can involve somebody's educational level. It can involve an assessment of their personality type. It can involve just basic questions about who they are and what they like and what they want to do, and trying to help them come up with a pathway forward that will be sustainable.
hmm So are we talking like figuring out how people can sort of navigate their own course of life? Because people oftentimes have a struggle with work-life balance. Oh, this my career's so demanding. Oh, how do I balance that by while also juggling, what I want in my personal life?
Yeah, that's definitely like the American curse, right? Is to have
hmm
that failed work-life balance. We don't see that failure as much in countries like Scandinavia or Denmark or other parts of Europe. And so, definitely trying to help people think that through. Honestly, that's one of the reasons that I think being an estate planner has been really good for me, because I always have the life perspective that none of us are getting out of here alive. All of us are working against a clock we can't see an end time on. And so if you have that perspective that, I mean, we all want to live to be 99 and die in our bed, when our life is done. But the reality is that life can be very short for many of us for no explainable reason. So you really do have to figure out how to be able to have the highest quality of life that you can. And I'm a big fan of everyone being able to figure out, what do I want for my life and how can I get it? I think a lot of people just don't spend time reflecting upon, what do I want? And they don't have enough people in their lives asking them what they want. They have people telling them what they want, and that's not the same.
Exactly. It's about sort of figuring out what you want and what you don't.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Um, because what else do you sort of work on with clients in the mental health space?
Oh, it depends. It just depends on kind of what they feel like they need. I help people walk through a lot of life's tragedies, right? So divorce, death, job loss. We do a lot of that, but I also help people who have personality disordered parents. We do a lot. I actually do a lot of training for lawyers too on how to deal with personality disordered individuals in your lives, like clients who are mentally unstable. how to set boundaries. Um, it varies from person to person because I never know what a person's struggle is until they come into my office and start talking about it.
Mm-hmm. And when you say personality disorder, does it usually mean like does it personality disordered types of individuals, does that mean they come from like really how should I put this? Sort of families that are kind of unstable, or how do you sort of define that?
Yes, actually, that is correct. So, people who have, when we talk about personality disorders, we're usually talking about narcissistic personality disorder or borderline personality disorder. And unlike other forms of mental illness like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, tend to be diseases that can be genetic and have a genetic component. But personality disorders are not typically viewed as being genetic in nature. They are the babies of trauma. So they are what happened when mom and dad are exposing child to copious amounts of domestic violence or alcoholism or a failed level of empathy so that the child grows up not having any earthly idea how to regulate their own emotions.
Hmm. And if you had clients, who were in that phase, and if so, how have you helped those folks, in that phase of borderline personality, sort of, yeah.
So I've actually had very few borderline personality disordered clients. Honestly, most borderline personality disordered clients fire their therapist. Therapists jump from person to person because they are easily offended and they don't want to work with a therapist in therapy. The best form of therapy for borderline personality disordered individuals is called dialectical behavioral therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very expensive, it's hard to get, and it's only offered in large cities. Like I live right outside. We have resources for DBT here, but it's very difficult to get, and the individual has to want it. Like they have to recognize that they have a problem and want to go to the therapy, and many of them just don't. My practice focuses more on supporting their relatives. So, supporting their spouses, their adult children, their siblings, the people in their life that are going, I don't know how to handle the behavior that this individual is presenting with. What do I do? And so I help those people figure out how to manage the behavior.
Mm-hmm. And so like what does that look like in the therapy session? So you kind of like walk them through how they can sort of help, like you said, because you usually deal with parents or siblings. So kind of like walk them through how they can handle um
Yeah. So the way that I do that the most effectively is there's this model called, I'm going to spell this. It's called Karpman, Karp, like think like the fish, a carp, Karp man, Man, Karpman. So there's something called the Karpman drama triangle. And most of the time, I don't like to tell people to go to Wikipedia as a reference, but the Wikipedia page on the Karpman drama triangle is actually pretty darn good. And so I actually wouldn't hesitate to go to send folks there. Essentially, what Cartman says is that most people who are personality disordered are always in one of three modes. They are either being a victim, it's always somebody else's fault. I've done anything wrong, or they're being a persecutor. So, you're just X, Y, and Z. You're the problem. I'm not the problem. It's always you. You're mean to me. So it's projecting on someone else, or they're the rescuer. The rescuer is the grandmother who calls adult daughter and says, "Oh, honey, I know you need help with those babies. Bring them to me. I've got them." But then the second they come to your house, then grandma's like, "Come get these kids. You're a terrible mother. I can't believe that you dumped them on me." So it's offering service in order to keep score. And so for the children and siblings and spouses of the personality disordered, when they get treated this way, it can be very unsettling. Somebody's always, first of all, I never know what to expect because I never know if my loved one is going to be yelling at me, yelling at someone else, rescuing. Like, I just don't know what to do. Sometimes they seem wonderful and sometimes they don't. And I have no idea what's happening. So, teaching family members that that predictable behavior, that victim rescuer persecutor paradigm is almost inevitable. And it, in fact, is one of the ways we know someone has a personality disorder. If you can get people to recognize that, then they don't take it so personally. Then when your loved one calls you up and tells you what a piece of garbage you are, you don't take it personally because you recognize they're just persecuting me today.
Mm-hmm.
And you're able to move on from that easier.
Mm-hmm. My next question is, what have you learned in doing the work in the mental health space? With borderline personality, like working with siblings and all that stuff.
I think probably what I've learned is that one, most people are doing the very best that they can. I think the majority, and I'm not saying we don't have our rare exceptions for people that are purely evil, but the
Mm-hmm.
majority of our population is truly doing the very best that they can. And some of the time, they just don't know what the answer is. They're dealing with something that they just don't recognize because we don't really train people on mental health. Like, I have graduated from high school. I got a 4-year degree from Virginia Tech, and then I went to law school. And I didn't have mental health training until I went to grad school for mental health. So you can have people walking around here who are highly educated, but they have absolutely no idea how to recognize a mental health disorder when one is staring them in the face. And that's a huge problem with our judicial system is that people don't know what they're looking at. And if you don't know what you're looking at, you have a difficult time managing it, dealing with it, and being compassionate to it.
Mm-hmm. What have you learned? I already asked that. Sorry.
You're fine.
I wanted to ask who was your mentor that you sort of looked up to in the mental health space? Was there some sort of professor? Was there some sort of someone outside the academia realm that you were like, I want to focus on mental health?
Yeah. So I think that is a multi-tiered answer. So one is that when I was a law student, I was I was clinically depressed. I was not doing well at all. I was about 23 years old and I was living far from home. My family had some personality disorders in the family tree that I didn't really understand what I was dealing with at the time. And the boy that I was in love with broke up with me or didn't want to date me anymore. So I was devastated. I was just not doing well at all. And I had a professor who thankfully was able to recognize that I had signs of depression and get me to a counselor. And that counselor helped me so much. And so I really began to believe in therapy because I saw someone who was able to help me feel better. And so that really inspired me to want to learn more about how did this person do that? Like, what did they say? What did they do? What tools did they give me that helped me to be able to get from A to B? And so then when I was in counseling school, there's an older therapist. He's actually still alive. He's in his 90s. His name is Dr. Irvin Yalom. And
Hmm.
Irvin is the father of existential therapy. And every time I hear him speak or I read his books, I just get so much out of it. He's actually the person who made me believe in telehealth. So prior to him, I really didn't believe in the concept of telehealth at all because I was like, you need to be one on one, face to face when you're doing therapy. And Irv was like, nope, not right. He's like, especially for people under the age of 40 because all those folks have grown up with the internet. So they, in many cases, younger people communicate in a totally different way than older Americans do. And also, telehealth helps you have conversations with people who are in like more impoverished areas who don't have a lot of therapists there. It can really help people access resources that they wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah,
But
and it's convenient.
yeah, it's super convenient. So Irv definitely made me a believer and expanded my mind on that level of like, I think it's so funny because he's 90. He's
Hmm.
literally 90. And at the conference where I heard him say that, he was like 80. And he was literally an 80-year-old speaking truth into, the good parts of the internet.
Wow. My last question is for those who want to enter, the mental health space and learn more about borderline personality disorder or just the mental health field in general, what tips or advice would you give them?
Oh, I love reading. Like, just read. Like, I think one of the best resources that we have right now is Psychology Today. You can go on
Yeah.
Psychology Today. They have tons of really great research-based literature. And so I would just go there and read as much as you can from Psychology Today. Also, if you need to locate a therapist in your area, there's also great resources on Psychology Today for locating a therapist where you can find someone in your zip code or someone who takes services through telehealth.
Yeah, I didn't know they had a literature section on Psychology Today.
They have a whole magazine, and the magazine is usually free. And so, especially all of their like archived issues, but they have great articles. So you could just Google like Psychology Today and then whatever topic it is that you want to learn about, and they'll give you something.
And for those who want to find out more information about you and or your practice, where would you recommend them to visit?
Probably the best thing to do with me right now is to go to my Instagram page, which is Paula J. Yost author. Same thing for Facebook, Paula J. Yost author, or you can find me on LinkedIn at Paula J. Yost.
Oh, that's good. All right. On that note, okay.